if you want to understand fascism, you really ought to read R. Palme Dutt, right? R. Palme Dutt wrote this very, very good book called Fascism and Social Revolution. R. Palme Dutt was the leader of the Communist Party of Britain, and this book is very, very good. And basically, what fascism is this. When capitalism enters a crisis, there's mass unemployment, people are hungry, they don't have jobs, there's instability in society. The ruling class wants things to be stable. They also want to fix the economy. And so in order to do it, one section of the ruling class will seize power and start suppressing other sections of the ruling class. Now that's called Bonapartism. However, in order to conduct a form of Bonapartism, that section of the ruling class will build up a mass movement among the workers, right? You have social democratic Bonapartists like Roosevelt, right? But you also have fascist Bonapartists like Hitler and Mussolini. And the way that fascist Bonapartists go about fixing the economy is with mass killing, death, and destruction. They create a very authoritarian military state centered around destructive things like prisons, like war, like, in order to try and save the economy. That's what fascism is, right? That's what fascism is. That's how Marxists have always understood it. They've understood fascism as a form of Bonapartism. And if you read Hitler's Banker by Hjalmar Schacht, that's pretty clear what it is, right? Fascism is a form of Bonapartism. It's one section of the ruling class violently killing and tearing things down and destroying people in the hopes of saving capitalism. That's what it is. That's what it's always been. And in fact, R. Palme Dutt, in his book, Fascism and Social Revolution, he lays it out pretty well. This is 1932. He's writing this. He says, two alternatives, and only two, confront the existing society at the present stage of development of productive forces and social organization. One is to throttle the development of productive forces in order to save class society, to destroy material wealth, to destroy millions of superfluous human beings in the slow rot of starvation and the quick furnace of war, to crush the working class movement with limited violence, to arrest the development of science and culture, and to turn to ever more destructive war as the supreme aim of each imperialist bloc striving to find a way for itself at the expense of its rivals, and thus save for a while the rule of the possessing classes at the expense of a return to barbarism and spreading decay. This is the path that finds its most complete organized expression in fascism. The other is to organize the productive forces for the whole of society by abolishing class ownership of the means of production and building up the classless communist society, which alone can utilize and organize modern productive forces. This is the path of communism, of the revolutionary working class. The issue of these two paths is the issue of the present epoch. It is to the former of these two alternatives that the existing capitalist world of today is moving at an increasing pace, to which it will more and more visibly develop in the period ahead, if the revolutionary working class does not succeed in the time in saving the whole future of civilization and human culture. That's what fascism is. Fascism is when capitalism is in a crisis, one section of the bourgeoisie takes power, it unleashes barbarism, it puts people in prisons, it executes people, it centralizes the military, and it tries to save capitalism with war, death, repression, and destruction, right? That's why Mussolini, what did he do? He colonized Africa, right? He rained brutal repression down on the people of Libya who were fighting for their independence around Omar Mukhtar and others. He invaded Ethiopia. That's why, Hitler restarted the armaments industry. He built the autobahns. He put a whole bunch of people in concentration camps. It's beating people down. Mass destruction by one section of the ruling class in order to save capitalism. That's what fascism is, right? It's an attempt to save capitalism with mass destruction, right? That's what fascism is. And I see David is with us. Welcome, David. We're going to do it at a different time. We know different folks in different parts of the world and all that. Glad David's with us. David's great. And there's a lot of folks from Australia who love these lives, so we're going to do it a little bit later. We started pretty early for Australian folks, but fascism, right, has always been an attempt to save capitalism with mass destruction. It's rooted in the crisis of overproduction, right? That the capitalist is constantly trying to increase technology. In doing that, he eliminates workers from the means of production. As a result, products can't be sold. You have an economic crisis. It's the same thing that happened in the 30s. overproduction, underconsumption, right? When the capitalist advances technology and creates poverty and creates lots of overproduction, it's the built-in problems of capitalism result in the situation where there's mass unemployment and the capitalists attempt to save their system with mass destruction, right? That's what fascism is. Marxists have always understood that until now. This book is hard to find. Fascism and Social Revolution by R. Palme Dutt is very hard to find. Not widely discussed. And if you go into left-wing circles now, people don't know what fascism is. Right? In the 1930s, the communists, they knew exactly what fascism was. They understood it. The Trotskyists, Leon Trotsky understood what fascism was. He had a little bit of a different interpretation. He focused on middle class and armed groups, but he knew what it was. Everybody knew that fascism was an attempt to save capitalism with violence and destruction. It was rooted in the problems of capitalism. But not now.